right, let's move on to the main event. And Jorge Masvidal ended up fighting Nate Diaz for the BMF title, right? Baddest motherfucker. And fight got called early for a cut that it should not have been called for. I mean, in my opinion, I understand that the doctor has a job to do in there and that you want to defend him, but come the fuck on. I mean, there's something to, and I understand that there's the argument that it should be universal for everybody, but when you're dealing with Nate Diaz and they're fighting for the baddest motherfucker title and The Rock's about to put it around their waist and you've done all this promo and you're in New York City, like the mecca of, I mean, fucking combat sport, right? Legendary boxers have gone through. There's some of the greatest matches of all time. And, you know, the UFC finally just got in there a few years ago. And you've got this massive event and Diaz has a cut above his eye, which has opened up before. And it's not, when the round breaks, like it's not, when they open up the round, it's not pouring into his eye. It doesn't look like it's impacting his vision severely. And you call that fight, you fucked up, man. In my opinion, that was a big fuck up. I didn't agree with it at all. I thought that I actually was confused about what was going on. Like I was aware that the cuts were there, but when the doctor came out, I was like, what the fuck's he doing out here? Like Nate has looked worse in fights. But and here's the most disappointing part about it is that like Jorge's gone 5 rounds against like Benson Henderson sometimes or before, but the question was going to be and you can make all the assumptions you want, but until you see the fight, you don't fucking know, right? So the question was going to be, is Jorge Masvidal going to be able to sustain this through rounds 4 and 5? I got the impression just from watching that he was. I didn't think Jorge looked tired. I think that everybody fades a little bit as fights start to go on. And if you are crazy, if you think that Nate Diaz was going to come out, and don't get me wrong, I think he's able to put pressure on, and you definitely want to see how it ends, right? But in my estimation of things and just what I've seen from Jorge throughout his career, I don't personally think it was going to make a difference. I thought he was handling Nate. He was beating his ass, man. It was a fucking beatdown. I mean, and he also fought really smart. Like there was this, when he hurt Nate in the first round, you kind of got this feeling like he wasn't putting it all on him, which is probably a good idea because if you gas yourself out against Nate and end up in his guard, that's a nasty place to be. But Jorge just took his time, man, controlling the legs, and he wouldn't let Nate stand up and get back into boxing. He was like controlling the leg, slicing through, boom, pot shots, right? Hitting him in the gut, hitting him in the face, just dotting him up, man. He did everything. Here's the best part about that fight is you got to see a little bit of everything from Jorge. And Jorge Masvidal is undeniably one of the best fighters in the UFC. Undeniable. I think he has one of the, I say this all the time, right? And Jorge Masvidal has he might have the most well-rounded game in MMA in terms of he can wrestle. He has great jiu-jitsu. He understands grappling. He understands clinch work. He can box. He has a great fucking body kick. And I'm sure he can toss that thing up. It's not a signature. Eve Edwards, though, man. Look, I mean, like back in the day, Jorge Masvidal can do it all. Everything, and he's really good at it, and he trains with like guys like Yoel Romero, so you know his wrestling's on point. And man, the way he dealt with Nate, and a lot of the time when like if Nate does get dropped and you wind up like getting on top of him, you'll end up in his guard and you'll end up trapped there, and then you can't get out, or like it just gets ugly. And Jorge never, it was, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was like a dirty, not dirty, right, but like it was a dogfight, man. Like they were in close, there were different parts. They got in close. They were fighting at distance. Like it was, but Diaz will tie you up at some point and make things difficult for you. And at no point during that fight did anything look difficult for Jorge. He got tagged a couple of good times, but like he was blowing through him, man. And he looked world fucking class. And I'm telling you, the next move for this guy, it's not going to be, I can guarantee you one thing. January 18th, it's not going to be Conor McGregor. I would put money on it because if you look at who Conor wanted to fight Frankie. Frankie Edgar just dropped to 135 pounds. You think that he just watched what Jorge Masvidal did at 170 pounds to Nate Diaz and is wanting to fight him? Not right fucking now. Conor wants a win under his belt. So I would expect Conor to, I think he's going to fight Justin Gaethje or Cowboy. And if I had to take my guess, just based off the fact that he wanted Frankie so bad, I think he's going to take Cowboy. Not because I think it's the more winnable fight, but I think Conor looks at Cowboy as the more winnable fight. And I think Conor, when he comes back, is going to want to win. And I don't think he wants Jorge. Like, he can say whatever he wants on Twitter, but right now, after seeing that performance and the things that Jorge's been doing, Jorge Masvidal is probably a fighter of the year contender. And man, a guy who it's regardless of the outcome of the fight, you can't take away from what Jorge did in those 3 rounds. And fighter of the year candidate, man. I mean, I'm telling you that. I'm not saying that, like, say whoever wins, right? Kamaru or Colby, either one. I'm not saying that Jorge is going to go in and win a pure wrestling match against those guys, but he has the hand speed and the aggressiveness and the understanding of, like, all the positions to keep them off of him. I think he outboxes Kamaru Usman. I think he outboxes Colby. And I don't think either of those guys have the power like Tyron Woodley to really sit you on your ass. So Jorge Masvidal has solidified, in my mind, he's solidified himself as a bad motherfucker. I think he was going to go on to win the fight. Obviously, you don't know. I just said earlier, right, you don't know. But if I had to guess, he was going to go on to win that fight. And I think he's going to fight for the title next. I think he's got the winner of Kamaru and Colby, no doubt. How can you give it to anybody else? Like I said, I don't think he's going to end up fighting Conor. Yeah, it's a money fight, but I not because Jorge doesn't want it. I don't think Conor wants that shit. I don't think it'll materialize. So, man, I know a lot of people want to see this fight run back, and I got to touch on this. It's just the problem with that is that Jorge is on. This is all the work that Jorge has done throughout his career. It's all come to this. Everything for Masvidal is like, right, it's come to fruition. Everything's lining up now. The problem with taking a fight against Nate again is you're going to have to wait for him to heal up. And in the meantime, I mean, Usman and Colby fight in a month. In the meantime, things might pass you by. So I just think that, like, for how long it's going to take Nate to heal and get medically cleared, Jorge can't sit around and wait for that. So I think he's going to end up fighting the winner of Kamaru and Colby. And if Colby wins, man, even more promotion, right? Because those two are not getting along anymore. So, and then for Diaz, man, maybe the Conor fight's next, you know? I mean, that's still a huge rematch. Everybody wants to see, it's a rubber match between the two. You know, everybody still wants to see it. And, man, it's a lot going on right now. And it depends on how the outcome of Conor's fight. Like, if Conor loses his fight on January 18th when he claims he's coming back, I don't know how many people are going to be that interested in Nate and Conor. I don't know. You know, there's a lot of things that can happen. So we're doing a lot of guesswork here. If I'm Jorge Masvidal or his manager, you're fighting for the fucking title, though, dude. You've done all this shit to earn it. Go get that belt.